Here you talk about God as a male. Why? Who's to say that God has a gender? How can something love me conditionally? That's not love. Love is unconditional. And if God loves me, then he, she, it is not sending me to eternal damnation.
Instead, what you love to do is get fanciful and say, oh, but it's wonderful.
No.
It's wonderful.
You're the one who can't live with chaos. I love chaos.
No, it's not. Social Darwinism has nothing to do with the creator.
Social Darwinism is humans take.
She came loaded with fire, and she wasn't pulling any punches. An outspoken atheist college student goes toe-to-toe with Cliffe Knechtle, grilling him on everything from God's gender and the so-called lie of divine love to evolution, morality, and the justice of eternal punishment. But Cliffe doesn't back down, and what he says about life's true purpose without God just might leave you speechless. Buckle up. This is not your typical debate. This is raw, real, and it might just challenge everything you thought you believed.
I would like to ask you, as an American Christian, do you feel victimized by the secularism in our society? I mean, do you feel that secularists are trying to take away your religion? So, as an example, not allowing public school dictated prayer in public schools. Do you feel that is secularism taking away your right to believe and worship?
No. No, I don't.
Actually, it's kind of surprising. So you're completely okay with not teaching creationism in schools?
Yeah.
So you believe that evolution is an accurate theory?
And I have the utmost respect for professors who teach evolution as a process. My problem is with the intellectual dishonesty of so many professors who teach evolution not as a process, but as an origin. And they do that in the name of science. That is intellectually dishonest, I am convinced. Evolution as an origin is not science, it's philosophy. It's a philosophy of science. And I've had the privilege of debating several evolutionists who have pointed out very clearly that to try and use science to prove God is intellectually dishonest. And they've been equally honest to try and they've said, and to try and use science to disprove God is intellectually dishonest.
I would say that you cannot compare faith, something that rests completely on a person's belief and not necessarily any need for evidence. You can't really compare that to a way of thinking that relies entirely on evidence. Faith is all about proving, and this is right. Science is about disproving. You can never prove something in science. You can only disprove or support.
I disagree. My brother is involved in genetic research to help the body take in the new liver and kidney without rejecting it. He's a transplant surgeon, and he does research. I can promise you, my brother is trying to find out how to genetically manipulate things so that the transplants that he makes will be accepted by the body. So I view science as a tremendous, fantastic area of knowledge where we're trying to discover how to solve problems. We're not just trying to negate things, we're trying to follow the evidence. Where does the evidence lead?
Right, and you do that by systematically testing in a way that you can either support or disprove, but can never prove.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can't compare faith and science. You can't use science to try to prove God, because how can you prove something with science? Science doesn't prove, it only supports or disproves. And God, by definition of faith, cannot be proven. It cannot be, you can say, oh, well.
Interesting.
You know,
Right.
I feel God in me.
Right.
I feel a spiritual connection. I can, when I read the Bible, I feel that connection with something greater than me.
Right.
But those are only feelings.
Okay.
And science can show them in an MRI. We were kind of talking about feelings earlier, and love, and you can see that in an MRI. So
Okay, I would express it differently. I would say there is evidence that God exists. Not scientific evidence, but philosophical, rational, reasoning evidence. Order and design demand an intelligent mind. In my observation of life, 100 times out of 100, when I see order and design, it points me to a designer. A beautiful piece of art demands an artist. A delicious meal demands a chef. A magnificent building demands an architect and a builder. When I stand at the foot of Mount Rushmore, if I say, wow, isn't it amazing the way the water dripped over the rock? Oh, there's George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, there's Teddy Rough Rider Roosevelt. That's ludicrous. The order and design of Mount Rushmore demands a sculpture. Mr. Borglund, I think was his name. See, order and design, in my experience, demands an intelligent mind. If anybody tries to convince me that this sweater came about as a result of a hurricane passing through a cotton field, I don't agree. I got a real problem with that.
I would definitely agree that that you need a designer to create something as simplistic as a material object like your sweater. I think that it takes the beauty and magnificence of evolution and time and trial and error and species having mistakes in their DNA and being born and either being successful or unsuccessful. That is design. Evolution is design. It is a chaotic design, and without your godly intelligence behind it, but it is nonetheless beautiful and can be shown through scientific exploration, because you cannot deny all of the evidence supporting evolution. There has not been a piece of evidence disproving the theory, and
as a process, but not as an origin. See, the question, is there an intelligent mind behind the process of evolution, is not a scientific question. It's a philosophical question. So what do you think? Is it more reasonable to believe that behind the amazing process of evolution there's an intelligent mind? Or do you think it's more reasonable to believe behind the amazing process of evolution there's no intelligent mind? It's all just chance and fate. What's more reasonable?
reasonable or comforting?
Reasonable and plausible.
Reasonable, I think it is a lot more reasonable to think that to believe in a chaotic theory that things happen, instead of believing that there is this magical being in the sky that controls things. Because where did that magical being come from?
Okay, that's a great question. Obviously, Albert Einstein thought at one time, along with Aristotle and others, that the universe was eternal. And therefore there's no need for God, because the universe is eternal. The Big Bang Theory came along and showed, no, sorry, universe is not eternal. Universe is about 15 billion years old. Einstein was sharp. Einstein understood, uh-oh, if this is true, that the universe is not eternal, it means there's got to be a God, a creator.
Why?
Why? Because everything that has a beginning has a cause. If the universe has a beginning, then the universe has a cause.
So is God eternal?
Correct. God is an uncaused cause, without beginning, eternal. And that is by far the most reasonable answer to the question, what is eternal? Because the Big Bang shows us the universe is not eternal. It's about 15 billion years old. So the question is, who or what caused the universe?
But who or what caused the thing that caused the universe? We're talking.
All right. If there is a God, he's an uncaused cause. He's eternal.
And right here, you talk about God as a male. Why? Who's to say that God has a gender?
Oh, that's very simple, ma'am. God doesn't have big biceps and facial hair. When we say God is he, the only reason we say he is because we don't have a personal neuter pronoun. The only neuter pronoun we have is it. And God is not an it. God is a personal being who loves. But you're right.
So God is a person?
Personal being. Personal being. Not body, torso, head, arms, legs. Personal being, a spiritual being, but not an it. God is not the force. God is a personal being who loves you. It's pretty good news, isn't it?
Well, some people would disagree with you, but...
On what basis? Why would someone say, ah, shoot, God loves me, I hate that?
No, I'm arguing that multiple people would disagree with you that God loves me.
Good gracious, what kind of person would say God doesn't love you?
Well, doesn't the Bible say that if someone doesn't believe in God and accept him into their heart, that they're going to eternal damnation?
Yes.
How can something love me and also want to give me pain? How can something love me conditionally? That's not love. Love is unconditional. And if God loves me, then he, she, it is not sending me to eternal damnation.
All right, all you got to do is think carefully. What does the Bible say about hell? What it says crystal clearly is heaven is relationship with God, together with God. Hell is separation from God. And because God is tolerant, and because God respects your free will, God refuses to force you to live life now with him and then haul you into heaven to spend eternity with him. Instead, he respects your free will. And if you choose to live your life separate from God, you have that right. He's tolerant. He respects your right. And he's not going to force you to spend eternity with him in heaven. If you want to live your life separate from him, you'll spend eternity separate from him. That's hell.
So hell isn't like Dante's Inferno?
That's right. Dante didn't know about hell. Correct.
So hell isn't this eternal pain and anguish. It's just me not being with God.
Well, wait a second. You're a beautiful woman. You have gifts. You experience pleasure. You obviously have a brilliant mind. Those are all gifts from God. And when you're separated from God, you're separated from the one who gave you all those good gifts. It ain't going to be a party. Because you're separated from the one who has blessed you with all the tremendous gifts that you enjoy.
Actually, I feel most separate from the beauty that is humanity when I'm in a church, when I'm surrounded by organized religion.
But look at Jesus Christ. Read the Gospels and check out Christ. And don't allow the church to turn you off to Jesus. That'd be horrible.
Excuse me, I shouldn't have said, I should not have only singled out organized religion. When I think about a being, a father-like paternal being,
Yes.
watching over me and loving me and saying, oh, well, I'll let you have your free will because I gave it to you. I don't feel connected. I feel connected when I think about evolution. I feel connected when I look at Papua New Guinea. I feel connected when I look at the evolution from mammals onto land and then mammals back into water, because that's what the conditions of the time provided for. And we have fossil evidence that whales, what we now have as aquatic mammals, whales, once lived on land. Do you think that's, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are simple. If God used evolution to create, wonderful. But I can promise you, if you take God out of the equation of evolution, social Darwinism and eugenics makes total logical sense. And ma'am, I can promise you, there ain't one beautiful thing about social Darwinism or eugenics.
No, I am
and
not
social
saying that at all.
Darwinism and eugenics are totally logical, following up on Darwinism if there is no God.
No, okay, because that is once again putting the power of evolution into some being, into some creator. But evolution
It is not. Social Darwinism has nothing to do with the creator.
Social Darwinism is humans taking evolution into their own hands.
It's okay.
No, it's not.
Then what is eugenics?
Eugenics is the logical consequence of understanding that evolution is survival of the fittest, evolution is an upward cycle, upward path, and let's help evolution. Let's not waste our natural resources, which are limited, on helping handicapped people, helping subhuman humans. Let's instead push for the survival of the fittest. Why should you waste your natural resources, which are very limited, on handicapped people? It's a waste of time. Instead, let's all evolve up the ladder, according to evolution. That is very logical. I'm not saying you have to go there, but that is very logical. Social Darwinism and eugenics make total sense if there is no God and we just are the result of the evolutionary cycle.
I believe that all life has intrinsic value. I believe that tree has intrinsic
Why?
value. I believe
Why?
because of the beauty and magic
That's
had
your bias.
and the chaos that had to happen to create it.
That's beautiful fancy. I love
Kind
your
of like-
fancy.
kind of like
but that's
God.
all it is. Because in reality, it's all just a cosmic accident, according to your worldview.
And how amazing is it that we came, that all of us right here are
Yes.
here because of accident, because of
Bravo.
chaos. How beautiful.
Wonderful.
Is
But it's all an accident. Your number came up in a Monte Carlo game. That's why you're here, according to your worldview. Fine. Your number came up in a Monte Carlo game. You got lucky. You exist. But meaning, there's no meaning to life. You're a cosmic accident. You see, and you can't live with that. Instead, what you love to do is get fanciful and say, oh, but it's wonderful.
No.
It's wonderful.
You're the one who can't live with chaos. I love chaos.
No, that is not
Accept it.
true. I live with chaos all the time.
No,
and I
you
am
prescribe
committed
to God.
fighting chaos in the human body. It's called modern medicine. And I'm committed to fighting chaos in society, fighting injustice, and bringing about justice, which is an understanding that human beings do have innate value, intrinsic value. That's why treating them poorly is evil. Just read Nietzsche, Camus, Sartre. They blast your atheism out of the water. They were atheists. But they blast it out of the water because they're logical. And they're saying, you know something? Because there is no God, life is ultimately meaningless. So don't get fanciful and say, oh, but it's a wonderful, meaningless experience. No. That's why Camus says, the only question you got to answer is, why not commit suicide? Your pond scum evolved to a higher order. Don't get fanciful and say, oh, but it's a wonderful, wonderful pond scum. No. It's pond scum. So just face it. Face what you believe. Take it to its logical conclusion. And Nietzsche poured scorn, intellectual scorn, on people who kicked back and said, yeah, there is no God. Life's meaningless. But you know something? You got value. And Nietzsche says, no. You wipe God out of the picture, and you have no value. Face it. Face reality. You're a cosmic accident. A joke. So don't tell me you got value. That's thinking.
Okay, I'm not lumping you with certain Christians I've met or heard speak, so you don't get to lump me with other atheists. Like, you don't get to compare
That's
me.
not what I did, man. Come on.
Yeah, you're saying...
I said the thinking of Nietzsche, Camus, Sartre was consistent, logical consistent. They started, there is no God, and they logically took their atheism to its logical conclusion, which is, because there is no God, and because I'm a cosmic accident, life has no ultimate meaning and purpose. Therefore, the question is, why not commit suicide? Why keep sucking wind?
No, therefore the question is, what kind of purpose will I instill in my own life?
Good.
What kind of purpose can I find in this world on my own?
Okay.
Without God.
Good.
Good without God.
Good. So what's your purpose?
I'm slowly discovering it.
Okay, but realize, please realize that whatever you conclude, the opposite is equally valid. Yeah, that's right, because it's all meaningless, and you go ahead and you create your own meaning. But because you got your brain intact and you realize it's all ultimately an accident, whatever you decide, and I'm sure you'll have a great definition of your life, maybe to help elephants or help the whale or help yourself or help other people, I don't know. But whatever you decide, I'm sure it's going to be fine. But you see, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to admit as a consistent atheist that the opposite of whatever it is you conclude is equally valid, because it's all ultimately meaningless. That's why Camus said, the only question we atheists have to answer is, why not commit suicide? It's all a joke.
So, what's your reason for not committing suicide?
Because I am convinced to the core of my being that you're not an accident.
No, you personally.
And I'm not an accident. We are human beings created by God for a purpose. And that purpose is to love and worship God and to love and serve each other.
So, you don't commit suicide because you believe that your life has intrinsic value.
All human life is created in the image of God. It all has intrinsic innate value.
We're just talking about you, though. So
I'm
you
a human being.
Okay.
Homo sapien.
Okay. And not only do you have intrinsic value, but you are put here for a purpose.
Correct.
And that extinguishing your life is an insult to that purpose
It's an insult to my creator.
and your creator.
It's saying, hey, God, when you made me, you did a lousy job. That's what suicide is. It's not worth living. God, what you gave me, this gift of life, is not worth it. But that's wrong. False. Every human being, I don't care how low their IQ is, I don't care how severe their handicap is, We are all human beings created in the image of God. That's why we all have innate value. Every one of us. You're hardwired in such a way that you know that the logical conclusion of atheism, that you're just pond scum, is not true. You attach value so often to your life. It's scary. And all I'm asking you to do is go back and watch the way you live your life. Watch how you repeatedly attach value to your decisions, your priorities. I mean, it comes out beautifully. I love it, the way you expressed it. You know, the beauty of watching nature and studying nature. And you thrive in that. You love it. Bravo. It's not insignificant. It's good. Keep going.
No, I don't commit suicide because I want to experience life. Not because I think, oh, well, you know, I'm human, so that means I need to carry out my life in its natural order, and it's not that. It's that I believe, for me, that I want to live. And I don't need to rest that on anything else.
Okay.
I don't need to find comfort in a higher being or a higher power.
All right.
I don't even really need to find comfort because what do I need comforting from?
Okay, all I'm going to ask you to do is just examine the next month of your life. And remember what you said out here. I don't need comfort.
I don't need a higher order kind of comfort. Sure, yes, okay. Science has shown us the importance of creature comforts, not just for humans. But I think we're actually talking about a kind of mental comfort.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So my mental comfort comes from me. Your mental comfort comes from God. But what's to say that your mental comfort isn't actually coming from you and just your perception, and you're saying, like, God is comforting me, but how do you know that's not really just you comforting you?
Great question. You're right. Maybe I'm just talking to myself. Maybe God doesn't talk to me. It's possible.
Maybe God isn't there?
Maybe God isn't there. That's right. It's a possibility.
I rest my case. I have to go to class.
See, that's really intellectually dishonest. If I acknowledge that it's possible that God doesn't exist, and you say, I rest my case, the implications of that are so dishonest, it's scary.
But
you did it, ma'am. I didn't do it. That is really scary.
That's a great time to stop.
Well, she can stop whenever she wants to stop, but she better not walk away thinking, wow, because a Christian says it's possible that God does not exist. I rest my case. God doesn't exist.
No, that's not, my case is not that God doesn't exist.
Good. What was your point when you said I rest my case? Because I had just said it's possible God doesn't exist, and you said I rest my case. Please explain what you meant by that.
I meant that instead of blindly following a doctrine, you are actually admitting to everyone that you have accepted the possibility that maybe you're wrong. And that's really all I ask from anyone who believes in a higher being. And so that's all I really wanted.
Oh, all right. So do you admit that you might possibly be wrong?
Every day.
Good. Good to meet you.
After all is said and done, Cliffe's answers point to something deeper than just arguments. They point to a God who isn't afraid of our questions, our doubts, or our struggle to believe. The reality is, if God doesn't exist, then love, justice, and meaning are just illusions, chemical reactions in a meaningless universe. But if God does exist, then your life isn't random. It's part of a greater story, one written by the author of life himself. That's why this matters, not just for the sake of winning a debate, but because the existence of God changes everything, from how we see ourselves to how we face pain, death, and hope. So, if you're watching this and still wrestling with faith, don't shut your heart. Open it. Seek truth with courage. Because if you're willing to genuinely look, you just might find the God who's been looking for you all along. If this challenged or inspired you, don't forget to subscribe for more conversations that confront the biggest questions in life, head on, with clarity and boldness.